All right, I wanted to answer a question about Jupiter and specifically about Jupiter returns. What are they? What do they mean? What can I expect from them? Well, Jupiter returns happen about every 12 years. And that means that about the age of 12, about the age of 24, about the age of 36, about the age of 48, you get the picture, you go through a Jupiter return. Now, Jupiter returns are times where you come to understand, in part, what Jupiter in your chart means, what your natal Jupiter means. A part of the seed potential, the blueprint of the potential for your Jupiter placement is enacted, is reignited when you go through your Jupiter return. Jupiter returns will take about a year. That's the amount of time that Jupiter will be in the same sign it was in when you were born, again, once every 12 years. So the best way to think about it, I think, for me at least for sure, my Jupiter has a lot to do with astrology. The ninth house is astrology in your chart. So just know that anything that happens in your ninth house is really important as it pertains to your relationship with astrology, amidst a million other things like media and publishing and religion and law and philosophy, and just like thinking about the big meanings of life, like what are we here for? What does it all mean? All of that stuff is connected to the ninth house, teaching, learning, spirituality. And for me, when I went through my Jupiter return, it was the first time I was really made aware of astrology. And it just so happens that Jupiter has a lot to do with my ninth house and my career. So when I was 12, I was introduced to this spiritual tradition, to this wisdom tradition, I should say, that would eventually become my life's calling and my life's work. Of course, I didn't know that then. I was 12 years old, but it was the first time I had a full astrological reading, and it blew my mind. I was like, what is this thing that this person is saying? I feel like it's a language that I know, but no one has ever spoken to me, but I get what she's saying. And she talked about my whole family's astrology charts. It was like a 5-hour reading. It was like my dad, my stepmom, my stepsister, my stepbrother, and me. And everything she said, I was like, yes, 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 that's it. It felt so validating. I felt so witnessed, and I was obsessed with it. And she had written a book, and my dad bought me that book. And that was the beginning of my astrological journey, was during my Jupiter return, my very first Jupiter return. So 12 years old is the first time we have a Jupiter return. So it doesn't mean that that's what should have happened for you. But it does mean that it reveals something about the nature of your Jupiter placement. So whatever house Jupiter is in and whatever house Jupiter rules or houses Jupiter rules in your chart. So this is the deal. Jupiter rules the houses in your chart that contain Sagittarius and Pisces. Those are the traditional signs that Jupiter rules. And we could also think of as a third way of understanding this, Jupiter also ruling the part of your chart that contains Cancer, because Jupiter is the exalted ruler of Cancer. So definitely think about the two areas of your life that are represented by the house in your chart that contains Sag and the house in your chart that contains Pisces, and the house that Jupiter is in, the natal placement of your Jupiter. And also you can think of this other thing like, okay, well, where's Cancer in my chart? Because Jupiter is the exalted ruler of that part of my chart as well. You can add that for flavor if you want. If you already understand the fact that Jupiter rules the part of your chart that contains Pisces and the part of your chart that contains Sag. And I know that this is a little in the weeds, but it's really important. We go through it in great detail in the Saturn return course, because all of you that are having your Saturn return right now, you need to understand what house Saturn lives in, and then also what houses Saturn rules in your chart. So if you're going through your Saturn return, go to the Chani app and listen to the Saturn return course, because it will guide you into understanding the part of your chart that contains your Saturn, and then the parts of your chart that Saturn also rules. Okay, same thing for Jupiter. If you're going through a Jupiter return, if you have Jupiter in the sign that it's in right now, then you're going through a moment of understanding what your natal Jupiter's capacity is. It's always going to be a moment of growth, but Jupiter, like everything else in the sky in your chart, it means something, and then it's up to us how we use it. So Jupiter returns are going to be a time of magnification. But whatever gets magnified is very specific to you in terms of what needs to get magnified. And again, it's very specific to where Jupiter is in your chart and to the houses that it rules. So go and read your Jupiter placement in the Me tab in the Chani app, and you'll get a much better understanding. And then go and check the transit section of the app and see if under long-term transits, Jupiter is transiting something else in your chart. And then read what it means to have Jupiter transit to your natal Jupiter, Jupiter conjunct Jupiter, your Jupiter return.